Good evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 210th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Bear Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. Can't believe it's been almost 100 takes since we've had this guest on, and I'm so excited that he has blessed us tonight and decided to come back. It's going to be a fantastic evening. You don't want to miss this. So thanks for tuning in live. If you're tuning in later on, we appreciate that as well. So let's get things kicked off. But before we get to formal introductions of our guests of honor this evening, let's thank the people that make this show possible. And that, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has done it. They've given away a Bitcoin. They've given away a 2022 Jeep Wrangler Sport. And in the process, they have launched and announced the new Nica Rustica Adobe, which was revealed on the 12th, just a couple of days ago, on their freestyle live show. What a fantastic show it was. Fireworks, they had cocktails, they had music. They gave away a Jeep, as I already said, and they launched the brand new homage to Esteli, Nicaragua with the Nica Rustica, the newest expression in the Nica Rustica line, the Adobe. So really fantastic. They launched a freestyle live pack that you could get at your retailers. Now they're going to be releasing the actual boxes, which are just amazing. It comes in a Toro, Robusto, and Gordo size. You definitely want to check it out. And it comes with a Habano wrapper, Brazilian binder, and a Nicaraguan filler. So check out your Drew Diplomat retailers and look out for the Adobe. It'll be on shelves soon. So welcome, everybody. This is our 210th take, and it's my pleasure, my privilege to welcome back this guest of honor this evening, sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke wins today. Start living united. Mr. Glen Case of Kristoff Cigars. Glen, how are we doing tonight?
Bear, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me. It's an honor. This is awesome to be back.
Oh, it's awesome to have you back. I can't, we were talking about my internal dialogue that I had with myself about inviting you back on the show. I was worried it was too soon. And then I realized I was like, gosh, it's already been 100 takes, like almost 100 takes. Like
it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I feel like I was yesterday when I talked to you the last time.
Exactly.
So thanks for having me back. It's truly an honor. I appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. The privilege is mine, Glenn. We were kind of lamenting about this too. Like when we first had you on, COVID had just started, like COVID as we knew it had just started. Like what a trip that is. Like we were talking about like, hey, we don't know how long it's going to be. This could be a couple of months. But I think at that point we had I think collectively we were kind of like, oh, this is going to be a bit. This is going to take a while. But just unbelievable that amount of time has kind of lapsed and everything. So
it's crazy. And by the way, your beard's looking amazing, my friend. Amazing.
Thank you. I shaved this morning, but it just doesn't it just doesn't stay down. You gotta it's first world problems, right? But but thank you very much. No, I'm really excited to see you here in a couple. If you could believe, speaking of time, right? See you here in a few weeks at the PCA trade show. You will be attending, correct?
Of course, I'll be there. Of course, awesome. Yeah.
Wonderful. Smoking some great Kristoff cigars, of course. Speaking of smoking great Kristoff cigars, we got a new tradition here on ELOSOFUMARTAKES, and I'm really excited to share this with you, Glenn. And I'm really excited about the potential cigars that I'm going to be smoking tonight. My affinity for the Vengeance. My affinity is so strong for the Vengeance, I didn't have any available to smoke this evening. So I got 3 Kristoff cigars for you to choose from. And it would honor me if you picked my cigar for me to light up with you tonight. So to start off, depending on how long we wanted to go, it's completely up to you. But I'm fully prepared to light one up if this is what you choose for me. I have the extremely pissed off Kristoff. Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah.
That's the big one right there. I didn't have any Vengeance available, but I did find in my humidor today. I actually even posted a video on Instagram of the unboxing of it. Box of the Kristoff San Andreas Robusto.
San Andreas, yep.
And a cigar that I've been looking for a long time, looking forward to. And I did have the expression, the TAA, the box press that you did last year, but this is, I hold in my possession the first 685 Woodline in the OG Perfecto that I'll ever smoke. So you can tell I'm I'm not trying to dissuade you too much. These are three fantastic cigars. I know you agree with that, but Glenn, it would honor me if you picked my cigar for this evening.
I'll make this easy for you, Bear. This is the 685 Woodland Cut Perfecto, which is you have in your possession. Smoke it, light it up. Let's smoke it together, my friend. It's awesome.
Fantastic. This was not planned, by the way, everybody out there. So Glenn, I think Glenn was already, you were about lighting up when I first told you what choices you had tonight. So
I just lit mine up.
Perfect. So I'm looking forward to this, Glenn. I'm super excited. So let's talk. I think we as embarrassed as I was last time, that I had never heard of this cigar. When I asked everyone what they were smoking, what Kristoff Cigars people were smoking, people were like 685 Woodlawn. What's your favorite Kristoff? 685 Woodlawn. I'm like, what is this? And so you schooled me a little bit last time I had you on, and what the significance. This was the address you grew up as a child.
Exactly. Yep.
And now that I'm looking at the label, it totally makes sense. That beautiful red, and you can see those nails there on the corner. Like, so I gotta ask, is this what your address plate will look like at the front of your house, or is it?
No. So,
you didn't get that detailed. Okay, cool.
Right. No, but this is true the address I grew up at as a child, the 685 Woodlawn. So when we came up with this blend, it was amazing, right? So we had to sort of come up with an amazing name for it. And frankly, I think it's the best cigar we make. And guys, your viewers, if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. It is awesome. So the wrapper on this is Cubra. It's a Habano seed grown in Brazil. The binder is very rare. It's a Sumatra seed grown in Brazil as well. And the filler is Nicaraguan Dominican Habano. And it comes in one size, cut perfecto, 6.25 by 60. And it is just awesome. And we only make 2,000 10-count boxes a year. So it's very hard to come by. And Bear, I think you've probably experienced that.
Yes, sure did.
So it's ironic that I even have one, because it is hard to come by, and we've been back ordered on it. And it's an amazing cigar. And we have our best master rollers making this. The burn on it, you can see, it's perfect. I mean, it's absolutely perfect.
Well, I was stoked to acquire some, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show, and I'm typically not a fan of like the Figurado, Bellicoso, Torpedo, Perfecto shapes typically. But then lo and behold, 2018, 2019, my number one cigars of the year are those shapes. Like the EP Corolla, Encore, Valientes, and then your cigar, the Vengeance, specifically in the Perfecto shape. And I like the Vengeance and all the other Vitolas, but I mean the Perfecto is just gorgeous. It smokes so great in that size.
It's amazing, right? The flavor changes as you go through it. And again, we have our best master rollers making this. It's just one pair, the bunch on the roller that makes the Vengeance cut perfecto and the 685 Woodlawn cut perfecto. It's just a superior cigar. And with that shape, right, you get changes in the flavor, and it's smooth and it's creamy, and it's just an amazing shape. It's a very traditional Cuban shaped cigar to smoke, which is why I love it so much.
Yeah. So when you started smoking, well, actually, when you not started smoking, but when you started in this business after your first career and everything, we talked about that last time. When you were smoking cigars with Terry and your father-in-law, did you naturally gravitate towards Vitolas like this, or did that come a little bit later?
It definitely came later, right? So, blending cigars and making cigars is an art. There's no science behind it. So as you start blending cigars with wrapper and binder and different fillers, again, there's no science behind it. It's truly an art. It's an artisan product. And as you grow in your experience of blending cigars and smoking cigars, you start gravitating towards certain sizes, vitolas, right? And certain tobaccos. And so for me, it's an ongoing evolution of coming out with blends and sizes that work for me. And I've been fortunate enough, Bear, to have similar palates to a lot of people out there, right? So I'm not about coming up with cigars that are punch you in the chops, strength, over the top. For me, it's about the smoothness, the flavor, without the bite and the bitterness. And the 685 is certainly one of those. All of our blends fall in that category. And going back to the vitolas that you mentioned, that Vengeance cut perfecto, same size, is over the top. It is over the top. It's actually rolled by our master blender or master rollers in the factory. So it's top-notch quality, a razor sharp burn. You can see this on the 685. And the draw is perfect, and we draw test every single cigar we make. We didn't do that in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like a lot of manufacturers. They take a wheel after the cigar is bunched, rolled, and then they pull out one or two out of the wheel, draw test it, and if it draw tests well, you assume it's perfect. That does not work. We found that out probably about 15 years ago. We've been around coming up on 17 and a half years ago. So the idea is we draw test every single cigar. So once it's bunched and pressed, we draw test the cigar. And if it passes the draw test, then we'll put the wrapper on. If it doesn't pass the draw test, we don't even put the wrapper on. We chop it up, and we do one of two things with it. We sell it to a company in Virginia for chewing tobacco, or we actually deconstruct the cigar and put the loose tobacco in our boxes. So in my opinion, again, our business mantra is quality, consistency, and availability. So we want every cigar to be perfect in terms of draw and flavor and consistency of that, whether it was made this year or 17 years ago. It's got to be the same.
That's where the tobacco comes from. So in the boxes. And you said you also sell to a manufacturer that does chewing tobacco as well. I always wondered that. What made because obviously it's tobacco and I know enough about cigar manufacturing that you guys don't waste anything. So the tobacco that's in your boxes, there's obviously a reason why it's not in a cigar. So that makes sense now. There it kind of completes the circle a little bit. How about that? You learn something new every day. But I didn't know about the chewing tobacco manufacturer. Like, is this are you partners with them, or you just sell to them, or we're
just a source of tobacco for them for chewing tobacco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
How long have you guys been doing that? So,
how long?
Yeah.
17 and a half years.
Oh, since the beginning. Oh, wow. Okay. So this goes back.
Yeah.
It goes back. Okay. Well, gosh, that's, like I said, you learn something new every day. That's what I really like about having these conversations every week, is that I kind of go into it, with the general idea of what I want to talk about and everything. And then you find these little nuggets and little gems along the way and stuff. It's really great. But speaking of, we had mentioned, I had mentioned, when you first started smoking, not first started smoking, but first got in the business with your wife Terry, and father-in-law, back when they had a brokerage, and you had left your first career in finance. We covered that on the last time we had you on.
Yeah.
But I was always curious, you spend so much time on the road, and I know one of the traditions that you have in the Kristoff family is that whenever you hire a new employee, or whenever the folks come to visit you in Chicago and everything, that you guys have a home cooked meal for them, and Terry has prepares that for them and everything. So I was curious, and I asked this a couple weeks ago to my guest as well. Like, when you come home on a long road trip, like what's the feel good meal? What makes you feel welcome at home. What meal is that?
Right. So, Bear, let me respond to your first point, which is Kristoff is a true family business. I mean, it's true family. And I'm blessed to work with incredible people in our office and our sales reps throughout the country and our distributors and brokers throughout the world. So it's a true family business, right? So any new employee that I'm fortunate enough to work with, they come to our house, and traditionally Terry makes a dinner. We hang out at her house, we smoke cigars, and it's sort of a it's just a welcoming to our family, right? And so that still continues through this day. We just in fact hired a new in-house rep in Mid-Atlantic states, Veronica, who was out here 2 days ago. We sat in the same very room, and Ward, who was our COO. We did orientation, had great cigars, great conversation. Then we went out to our local. So unfortunately, we've had some family issues with Terry's folks, health issues. So unfortunately, she wasn't able to make dinner. So we went out to our local watering hole here. There's one of two restaurants in Hampshire, Illinois. Population 6,400 people, that's it. But sort of indoctrinated her into small town Hampshire. But that's been our philosophy for sort of just coming together, walking them into the family, and just managing our business that way. But typically, yeah, Terry makes amazing Mexican feasts. She's half Mexican, so amazing food. But again, we're dealing with some stuff. So unfortunately, this last trip with Veronica, that didn't happen, but still, it's been great.
So I'm also part Mexican as well, and so I have a lot of family recipes and everything that my grandmother passed down, and my mother as well and stuff. So it just immediately got me thinking about all the stuff. I have to meet your wife now. Not to talk about cigars, just to talk about Mexican food. So.
Absolutely, my friend, you're welcome anytime at our house.
Anytime. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind. That's very kind. Well, awesome. Well, that one takes us into our next thing, which is our major point, of course, of the night. So I was having a lot of trouble kind of developing a theme for tonight's show, Glenn, but as it kind of were, and how things kind of funnily line up and everything, there were so many slew of topics that I wanted to cover with you tonight that it's like, well, you know what, it doesn't have to have a theme. So tonight's major point really doesn't have a theme, but we have some great things to talk about. And in particular, one amazing person to honor, actually two amazing people to honor. So tonight's major point is always sponsored by the people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release of the Lawman series, Bass Reeves, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars, and a special happy birthday to Protocol Cigars co-founder, Mr. Juan Cancel today. I'm sure he's at a pool somewhere with a cocktail enjoying an awesome Protocol cigar. So you deserve one. Happy birthday, my friend. So, but tonight's major point, Glenn, is again, as I said, is kind of all over the place. So I wanted to start with an interesting question. So last week I had the privilege of having Tony Bellotto on the show, and he was the successor to the throne that you held for a year. You were the #1 cigar of the year for ELOSOFUMARTAKES with the Vengeance Perfecto that we talked about earlier. And then he became the following year the #1 cigar of the year with his La Barba Ricochet Crew Mex's Soul. And so it got me thinking about this. And this is really going to sound like I'm fishing, so I got to preface the heck out of it because I'm really not. But we've all heard about the cigar aficionado hangover. If once you're on the top 10 or the name #1, it's like it's a huge honor, of course. But then there's the supply chain, demand and all that other stuff. I'm under no delusions that ELOSOFUMARTAKES moves the needle that much for anybody. But when someone honors your work, like say for instance, I named you #1 cigar of the year. You've been in cigars in spirits top 10 countless times. You've been in Cigar Aficionado top 5. I mean, when someone honors your work like that, like obviously it's a positive reaction. But what goes through your head, Glenn? I'm just curious.
For me, it's a very humbling experience. And when you rate that cigar #1, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's aficionado, as you mentioned, or any other magazine. Bear, it's truly an honor. And especially with someone like you, right? You're focusing on boutiques, you're focusing on those that are up and coming. And so for me, it's just a true honor to be acknowledged and recognized. So I want to say thank you for that. So regardless of who it is, it's always an honor, and it's a blessing. It's a true blessing. So thank you for that.
Oh, I mean, the honor belongs to you, Glenn. I mean, you and your amazing team put together an amazing product, and I mean, I couldn't stop smoking them. So I mean, it made its place on the list all its own. So all credit to you all. But thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words. It was one of those things that I was thinking about. I'm like, okay, so obviously it's a positive feeling when someone recognizes your work and everything, but this is something that, like we were talking about just at the top of the show, and this wasn't even planned. You're talking about how it's artisan, and there's a lot of trial and error. You don't just, and plus the time that has to go into it, not just the time to make the blend. I mean, I think the layman does not realize is that when you're testing a blend, it's not like you just roll it up and smoke it and like, okay, that tastes good. No, you wait, 3 weeks or 3 months, and then you test it again after time until you try to figure out, is this going to be the cigar that ends up on the shelf and ends up in people's hands and everything. So
yeah,
go ahead, please. Right.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, literally. So I was at the factory 2.5 weeks ago. We blended, I can't even tell you how many blends we worked on. And you smoke them and you have no idea. And so the question I get frequently is, when you're blending a cigar, you're blending it on the spot. The tobacco's already been dried, cured, fermented, aged, all that's done. So when you start putting together wrapper, binder, and filler and smoking them, there's a couple things. #1, you don't know. I mean, it might, for me, it works. It's like, this is amazing, or we have to change this. Let's change the binder, wrapper. Let's mix up the filler. You just have no idea. So typically for me, it takes 3 to 4 months of ongoing blending to come up something where I think we're pretty close, right? And then once we come up with the final blend, it's like, all right, let's go into production. Let's let it age and see what happens. And there's been blends. I'll give you an example. Corojo Limitada, which again was in the top 25 for Cigar Aficionado. I think it was 94 rated, #11 cigar, whatever it was. But after it was aging for 5 months, I smoked it. Honestly, it was a turd. I'm like, what happened? So tobacco has to take time to marry together once it's in aging room, right? And fortunately, after 6 to 7.5 months of aging, it was perfect. And so depending on the blend, you just don't know. I mean, you have to let it age and the tobacco marries together. You just don't know until it's ready. And once it's ready, you know it's ready. And then it's like, all right, let's launch this. Let's throw it out there.
What a shock for you too, right? Like you said, like it wasn't good. I mean, and then you go back a few months later and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, this isn't the same cigar, right? It's like that's so unbelievable. I
And
mean,
so when we, yeah,
I do a lot of age experimentation, and like I actually I have Vengeance. I have them earmarked because I'm that much of a nerd. I have them earmarked because I'm testing out aging with them,
mhm.
um, and because I love the cigar so much. But it's I like seeing what cigars do, even if they end up going and falling off a cliff. It's like, okay, well now I know not to do that anymore. So, but it's just one of those fun pastimes and everything. Um, have you had any other experiences like that, like where maybe it wasn't so dramatic in terms of like maybe it was like you thought the cigar was going to be mild and it ended up being medium, or you thought this was a really strong cigar, but after time it really settled down. Did you have any other experiences like that with any of your other blends that were kind of that extreme?
Y- Probably the Corojo Limitada is the biggest extreme, right? So, and when we blended that cigar, we were 8 months out before, at the time it was RTDA, it wasn't IPCPR, it wasn't PCA, but a month before the show, when we launched that cigar, it was perfect, spot on. Like, all right, we're ready to go. But most cigars, I mean, when you blend them and you're smoking them within 7 days of actually blending them, again, assuming the tobacco is all processed and cured and fermented and aged, everything good, it's directionally correct. But sometimes it does take time for the cigar to sort of marry together, and it has to open up like a fine wine. So, we're working on a number of blends right now. And I'll say this for your viewers, we're doing a PCA exclusive, which we're working on right now. So
Fantastic.
the only way to get the cigar is if you're a PCA member and you go to the show in July in Vegas. That's the only time you can buy it. If you don't go to PCA, there's no way you can get it.
Okay. All right. So
So
a
I
true
don't know if
exclusive.
you've heard this, but PCA is doing a big push on exclusives like we do
Hmm.
for TAA exclusives. So they're kind of following that same model. So we're working on some really exciting blends using tobacco we've never used before.
All
And
right.
it's awesome. It is awesome. So stay tuned on what that looks like. But the only way to get it, if you go to PCA as a retailer, that's the only time you can buy it.
Fantastic.
Otherwise, if you don't go, there's no way you can get the scarf. So
So,
we're working on that now. So
sure.
and Bear, I'll be the first to disclose to you what we're working on in the blend and the final blend. But we're super excited about it.
Terrific. Terrific. So I'll find out in due course. So I mean, you guys are taking this experimenting, I mean, down to, I mean, you want this to be absolutely perfect
Has to
before
be.
it's ready. Hmm.
Has to be. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, I'm, we were talking a lot about blending and putting the things together and everything. And you've obviously you've had a, a long career of patience. This was a question I wanted to ask you before we went into this serious subject. We talked about trying and retrying and all that other stuff. Were you always a patient man by nature, or would you consider yourself a patient man, or is it something that you had to teach yourself by getting into this world of cigar manufacturing?
If you ask my wife, I'm the most impatient person in the world. So that's the truth. I'm telling
She's
you.
probably laughing in the other room, like, did he really just say that?
Yeah, I'm super impatient, right? So I want results. I want everything now. But with this industry, it's all about time and aging and waiting and seeing what this comes out to, right? So I've learned that that's not a skill set, but it's learning that sense of patience and waiting for a fine wine or a fine cigar to come to fruition and sort of develop itself. So that's been hard for me. So when I was in corporate and finance, it was, look, I call someone, I got a problem. I'm calling someone, I want it fixed now.
Yeah.
This is a different industry, right? So it's all about patience and waiting and processing and making sure it's perfect at the end. So that's been an adjustment. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because it's, you know, the immediacy of like it's funny, right? Because I'm sure that when you have a problem in cigar manufacturing, it's no less urgent than an emergency in the finance world, which is where you came from. It's the actions taken to fix the problem, right? To look just completely different. Yeah, it would drive me nuts. I'm an immediate satisfaction kind of person myself too. So that would drive me crazy. That would drive me
For sure. I
something.
mean, like it's absolutely nuts, but this product requires patience
Oh,
and just
absolutely.
waiting and seeing how it develops and marries, and you smoke it again. It could be 3 to 8, 10 months later, and you're like, all right, finally we've got it. It's ready. So it's a test of patience for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So again, with all this testing and all this stuff that you've learned over the years and everything, I mean, it goes without saying that you've obviously had some amazing help along the way. And unfortunately, just a few short months ago, you lost, you know, other than your direct family, probably the most closest person to you in this industry, which was Rolando Villamil, who passed away back in February. So
Yeah.
my sincerest condolences for your loss, because I know you guys were not just partners, Glenn, but I mean, you called him your brother, your truest of friends. In your own words, Glenn, I mean, like what did Rolando mean to you personally as well as professionally?
Is it? It's a tough one. So Rolando, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. He was a mentor, a friend, and I knew his entire family. We all hung out together. He's got 2 nieces that help run the factory. One is the CFO of the company, Rosa, and Carmen, who runs HR. But when I always on the Dominican for the last 17 years, spent time with his brother, the entire family, the kids, the grandkids. He was a dear friend. And it's hard. It's hard. So to fill that gap, not only as a friend, which can never be filled, but the factory and everything he did. I mean, he and I would sit in his office and blend cigars and laugh and joke. And then we go to, after work, we go to the office, which was Pedro's in the Dominican. And that's where a lot of work got done as well. Those days are gone. So now we're trying to backfill that with those that are left in the factory. So after he passed, my wife and I, Terry, went down there for his services that week. I met with everyone in the factory and stressed the importance of Rolando's vision, of our vision, I should say, of quality, consistency, and availability. And so we're still instilling that in the factory. And I don't own the factory, but we are 95% production on the factory.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for me. And I told them when I was down there, I'm like, you're going to get sick of seeing me because I'm going to be down here more than you want me to. But everyone in the factory is family. But Rolando's shoes, those are big shoes to be filled. But we'll get it done. Nothing's changing. The quality of Kristoff doesn't change. But I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Bear.
It was a pleasure. I know, I mean, it's my honor, rather, Glenn, because I think, so often in anything, we see the face of things. We see the face of companies, especially in this industry, right? There's the quote unquote cigar celebrities, and for Kristoff, the face of, there's so many people behind the scenes, and you and Jared have taken such great care to honor them, including Rolando, obviously. But I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this is the story about Rolando particularly. This is how you guys became partners. Was he originally came to you when you were a broker, right? He wanted you to sell his cigars, and you're like, well, actually, we're looking for a partner, right?
Right. That's a great point. So when he came the first time to Chicago, he flew here the dead of winter, and we met in a town called Rosemont in Illinois, and he wanted us to broker cigars. And at that point, my wife and I had partnered up. She had been brokering cigars for years. I did it for 6 months with her, and said, look, we just lost our biggest manufacturer at the time. Numbers were up, and my wife was used to building new brands and losing them, building a new brand, losing it. As a broker, that's your life, right? So when he came into town, I told him, I said, my friend, I am not looking to build a new brand. I'm looking to buy or build a factory and build my own brand. So that's when he said, my friend, please come to Dominican, take a tour of the factory. If you like what you see, we blend cigars, we make them for you. So that's what we did. And that was in 2004. But Rolando has worked with, he's been in the industry, he was in the industry for 49 plus years. He's worked with Ernesto Carrillo, Hanky Kellner, the list goes on. I mean, he was the unsung hero of this industry, and which is why he is my mentor, and learned a ton from him, and he will always be missed. So, but that was the start of Kristoff Cigars when I met him and he flew here, and our friendship will forever be in my heart.
I think it's also really is beautiful, and that's beautiful, Glenn. But I think what's also really candidly is very awesome about his legacy is that, and I think most of our audience will agree with this, like, you can love Kristoff Cigars, you can not like Kristoff Cigars. That's a subjective opinion. But I think everyone can agree with this. What you and Rolando created, from the blends to the style to the aesthetic and everything, it's something that's incredibly unique. That work gets tossed around so much, but if you take, well, I got extremely pissed off that there's a unique manufacturing cigar within the, but if you take anything, the Sumatra, the San Andreas, the box over there I have over here, yeah. Like there are dozens of San Andreas wrapped cigars in this industry, manufactured over a slew of countries and everything, manufacturers and everything. And of course, every blend is different. That's without dispute. But the look, you've got a Kristoff cigar in your hand. So if his legacy, I think, will be not just for the blends that he created for you and I are delicious and wonderful, but also like what he created will be an aesthetic pillar of this industry for years to come. And I think that's one of the more beautiful things.
Absolutely. And that was a collaborative effort between the two of us. And we've got our own box factory, so everything's done in-house. But to your point, Barrett, I mean, you're right. What we created was Rolando and I together. And I miss those days and the hours we spent in the factory and in his office and blending cigars together and laughing and joking. And when we go to Pedro's, if you ever been to the DR, if you haven't been to Pedro's, you got to go to Pedro's. That was the true office. So a lot of work got done at Pedro's, but yeah, it's a true legacy with Rolando. Again, he's the unsung hero of the industry. So when I was there for Rolando's services, we went to Pedro's and Carlito Fuente was there. I walked in, and the first thing I walked in, he got up, he says, "Glen, I am so sorry about Rolando." But the fact that Carlito acknowledged that, and I love Carlito and Cynthia, but the fact that I walked into Pedro's and he was the only one in there, and he stood up and said, "I am so sorry about Rolando," it means the world to me. So it just shows you how small the industry is, and how intimate it is. So, yeah.
It really is. And the thing that, we kind of go back to, which is the impact that a certain person makes. Like, cause like you said, Kristoff is about 95% of the Charles Fairmont factory.
Mm-hmm.
And Kristoff's it's not a small brand, but it's not a massive brand either. It is an international brand and everything, but so that's kind of where I wanted to go with this point, was that, it all started with the conversation that you two had in Chicago when you weren't even a manufacturer. And now his co-creations with you are worldwide. And not to mention his other work that he did with the other 5% of the manufacturing. So
sure.
That never ceases to amaze me, is the doesn't matter how small, the impact that it makes, because it truly is kind of a trickle effect.
Yeah.
Because of how intimate this industry really is. On a lighter note, so did y'all ever manufacture, like, I'm sure this had to have happened at some point when you guys were doing blend testing of hundreds of cigars at this point, or hundreds of blends at this point, but did you guys ever stumble upon anything that you were like, this is really good, but it just wouldn't fit in the Kristoff portfolio? Did that ever happen? Or
yeah, so Barry, that's a good question. So I won't name manufacturers, but there's a manufacturer out there is all about strength and power and punching the chops, and it does. So we worked on blends like under processing tobacco in the filler, just to give it that strength and that pop. But I would smoke it. I'm like, "Rolando, this is not my pellet. I can't smoke this. It might do well in the market," but he's like, "No, my friend, coño, this is not for me. It's not smokable." So there are times we've blended cigars where to compete against certain manufacturers to penetrate that.
Carve a niche out. Yeah, carve a niche out for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not my palate. It was never Rolando's palate. And for me, I always say, if you're looking for a smooth, full flavored cigar without the bite, the bitterness, the aftertaste, then try Kristoff. If you're looking for something that's going to knock your head off, it's not us. It's truly not us. And we've got the Pissed Off, which you brought up tonight. Look, it's a full flavored cigar. It's got some strength to it, but it's a very smooth, savory cigar. And it'll creep up on you, but it's not going to give you that punch in the chops, right? So I never want to produce a cigar like that. For me, that's not enjoyable. So yeah, that's my answer.
It's funny, because a few years ago, when when cigar smokers were becoming more educated smokers, and the term, Ligero first brokered the layman understanding of tobacco and everything, and like, oh, Ligero, that's really strong. So like people started coming out with double Ligero and triple Ligero and triple fermented Ligero and this and Ligero that'll make your hair stand up, like just everything, right? And that was kind of a trend for a little bit. And then so I remember for the first time smoking the Kristoff Ligero, expecting that, and it wasn't. And that was the thing that was really unique about it, that I really enjoyed. I was like, well, this is different, and not in a bad way at all, despite what my tone might suggest right now. But I was like, because my palate had been accustomed to that, like you said, that punch in the face, right? And I really had to smoke that cigar a couple of times to really. I will say this: I had to smoke that cigar a few times to really appreciate what I think you all were trying to accomplish, and I still really enjoy it. I mean, Glenn, I'm a fan of your cigars. I think, like I said, for all the reasons we kind of talked about tonight, they're different and they're nuanced, and I really like how, like, even smoking the 685 Woodlawn that I am tonight, like this is about as elegant of a cigar as you produce, and yet there's still, like, I love the rustic nature of it. Like I could easily smoke this in a 3-piece, at a 5-star restaurant after a $500 steak dinner, or I could really enjoy this outside my campfire and kicking back or whatever, and everything. It's that type of a cigar, and I'm really enjoying this. This is my first one, like I said, in the OG side. This is really, really enjoyable cigar. I'm loving it.
I'm glad you like it. And with the band, Manny designed that band. And Manny is an amazing artist. So kudos to him for designing the band. And it's definitely outside of the box of Kristoff, right? Because Kristoff is sort of a rustic elegance, but that 685 Woodlawn, that 10-count box, and the lacquered box with a gold cliche on the top, and these beautiful bands.
They're gorgeous.
That's all Manny's doing. So kudos to Manny for helping me design this cigar in terms of the packaging. But the blend itself, my opinion, best cigar we make.
All right, so here's another silly question. So on the secondary band that I've peeled off here, it's got the 685 Woodlawn logo that we've talked about, and it's got the Glen Case series. Glen is that how you sign your name? Is that your signature?
No, it's not.
Okay, I was going to say you have the most gorgeous penmanship. Oh, okay, I was like, you have the most gorgeous penmanship I've ever seen. Like my gosh, that's like beautiful. I know, and like I said, I know it was silly, but I was like, I was like, man, that's awesome. But I'm really glad we got to talk about and honor the memory of Rolando, because I know what he meant to you personally.
Thank you.
As well as what he meant to this industry professionally, and what he did with this fact. It's almost like a hidden gem of a factory. No one, if it weren't for Kristoff Cigars, it wouldn't be like, it's so hard to say. I don't know if people would know the factory or not, but everyone knows Rolando's work and the impact that he had on this industry, and what a life it was. And so I'm glad we got to honor him a little bit tonight. So thank you for sharing some memories.
Thank you, Bear. Thank you so much. That meant a lot. Trust me.
So the good news is we got a lighthearted topic lined up after this, so I figured that would be a little bit of a tough topic, but we do have to say goodbye to something else here on ELOSOFUMARTAKES. As many of my guests and my audience know, we've had a wonderful and amazing partnership with United Cigars, sponsoring our guest spot, and also the segment One Must Go for over 2 years now. It's been a really fantastic run and everything. Don't worry, our partnership with United Cigars is not going anywhere, but it is changing. And we are saying goodbye to the One Must Go segment. So Glenn, I'm honored tonight that you will be the final guest that gets to participate in this awesome segment that's been a part of my show for over 2 years now. So thank you again. Thank you for being my guest, and thank you for participating. So let's honor you, and let's honor the place you called home, the city of Chicago, with our last and final One Must Go. And as always, One Must Go is brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana and distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabey and Byron lines. Smoke one today and start living united. And as of today, there has been a rejuvenation of the La Mezcla Cubana line, which is ready for a relaunch. It was relaunched at the 2022 TPE show in Las Vegas. It's with a comprehensive portfolio that offers a blend for every palate. United Cigars is offering another line with a budget-friendly price. First debuting in 2006 through Cigar Agency, La Mezcla Cubana was sold throughout the United States until 2013 when United Cigars bought the brand. Today, it is being produced at the Mejia Cubana factory in Huarabo, Dominican Republic. The relaunch comes after a Zoom call uncovered an opportunity to purchase the 7-year-old Ecuadorian wrapper leaf from ASP Enterprises and a family-owned tobacco farm in Ecuador. So welcome back, a storied brand, to the United Cigars portfolio. Smoke one today. Start living united. So here it is, our final One Must Go segment, everybody. So the city of Chicago, a city and known for its love of sports and athletics. And not only that, but at the arenas that carry it. And this topic has come up in other shows, and there are many other people in this industry that come from your area, Glenn. But I think when people think of Chicago and cigars, I think, Kristoff is certainly the one that comes to mind for the most part. So we are going to talk about my selections for the arenas from Chicago. Again, this is a non-Chicagoan picking this, so bear with me, everybody. Wrigley Field. So with all respect to the Southsiders, I went with Wrigley, the iconic Ivy, the goats, the Billy Goat jinx, and the long storied history of everything. Wrigley Field stands as a beacon in Major League Baseball stadium lore. Soldier Field. I'm a Packers fan, so this pained me to pick this, but no, in all respect, George Halas, the house that George Halas built, Walter Payton, the 1985 Super Bowl team with that incredible defense and a lot of storied programs. Gale Slayers, Brian Piccolo, that whole saga. A lot of great stories over the years, right? And then, of course, it's not the United Center anymore, but I grew up in the 90s, so it'll always be the United States Center. 6 incredible NBA championships led by, in my opinion, the greatest basketball player to ever live, Mr. Michael Jordan. So those are 3 incredible arenas, Glenn. So we're doing a 2-parter for this final One Must Go. So, and this is your opinion, but one's got to go in regard to these 2 questions. One's got to go in regard to these 2 questions. We'll start with the impact that these sports arenas have made on the city of Chicago. So from a city standpoint, which one, in your opinion, has had the least impact?
Oh, my friend, you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Bear, this is a great question. So, all right. Let's talk about the Cubbies, right? The Cubbies, right? I was on the road and they won the World Series. It was 100 plus years since I won. So that holds near and dear to my heart. Walter Payton, 85 Bears, amazing, goes down in history. In my garage, I've got my Wall of Fame. I've got an autographed picture of Walter Payton in my garage.
Oh, awesome.
So, near and dear to my heart. The Bulls, and I was fortunate enough when I was in corporate to see them win, invited to the playoff games when I saw Jordan play and win the series. That being said, the ones that's got to go, and they all mean a ton to me, but the United Center has to go. It's all about the Cubbies and the Bears for me. So I don't know if I disappointed anyone, but for me, that's my answer.
Okay. I think for the city of Chicago,
it's tough. It's a tough question.
Yeah,
so I appreciate it.
Well, I think from the city standpoint, right, and we have a secondary question here to follow up with this. I think from the city standpoint, I think that's the obvious answer, right? Because your history is against the United Center altogether, right? I mean, Soldier Field. I mean, the Bear. And I'm really not trying to needle you here, Glenn. But I mean, despite the recent drought that y'all have had historically, like Bears football is iconic. George Halas meant more. I mean, he helped build this league.
Absolutely. And so a little background story on this is, so this is years ago, probably 12, 15 years ago. I don't know what it was, but I was honored to sponsor the NFL Players Retirement Association golf outing in Forest Park.
Oh, wow.
It was 85 Bears. So here I am on the 9th hole, handing out Kristoff Cigars to all the 85 Bears players. So for me, that was like, this is amazing, right? So that's the other part that I wanted to share with you, to say this means that much to me.
Yeah.
85 Bears, to hang out with them and smoke cigars with them and shake their hands. And I'm like, I wanted to get all their autographs, but I'm like, that's a little cheesy, so I'm not going to ask them. I'm like, oh, here's the Kristoff, Trace, blah blah. But yeah,
I have no shame, Glenn. I would have done it. I would have done it for you. I have no shame. I would have done it.
You should have been there with me.
Oh God, that's so cool. So we all know that Mike Ditka, of course, Coach Ditka, he he had his own cigars, and he had that close association with Camacho and everything for those years. Do you know? I mean, did you ever have the opportunity to smoke a cigar with him or hand him a Kristoff? Or
well, absolutely. So I did an event at Mickey Blake's up in the New England area, and that was when he worked for ESPN. That was his hangout. So I was doing a Kristoff event, and Ditka shows up. I'm like, this is awesome. So we had a chance before the event started, hanging out, just talking and hanging out with him. I sat on the same sofa with him, and we're watching. The Bears were actually playing at that time, but he bought a box of Kristoff. I've got a picture of him, which I posted in the past, and he loved the cigar. He bought the Corolla Limitada. I'll never forget. Loved it. So we hung out together for the evening, and it was awesome. Dicka's Dicka. You got to love the guy.
Yeah. No, I don't know what it. So there's three people. There's three Chicago Bears that I've always been like a fan of. Just I never got to see any of them play per se. And there's of course been a dash of players here and there, like Julius Peppers before he came to the Packers. Even I thought he was incredible. I loved his story, and he's great. But I really liked Mike Ditka's story. The fact that he was a player and a very a great one. He was a great, and he went on to coach and do an incredible job for that city that gave him so much. I don't care who you're a fan of. In my case, I'm the Packers fan. If you don't respect Walter Payton, you don't like football. I just,
Best
I'm
player in
under
the
that firm
industry.
belief.
Best player ever to be. And so
I've heard the argument between him and Jerry Rice, and it's an interesting argument, but I'm with you. If your vote's for Walter Payton, I'm with you.
absolutely, absolutely. So another quick story. So when I was much younger, we used to hang out at a place called it's going to come to me. I'll come back to it. Anyway, a club, hang out. And Walter Payton was there that night. And so my best friend, Chuck, and his wife and our friends were there. And he was sitting at the bar. And so my buddy, Chuck, who passed away in October, God bless his soul, he and his wife were sitting there. We were talking to Walter Payton. And he's so generous, right? He's just a generous guy. So he says, it's great meeting you guys. And he looked at my buddy Chuck. He says, you know, it was great talking to you. Anything I can do for you? He goes, yeah. Can you write a check to me on their personal check to Sweetness for $34, which was his number.
Right.
And it was awesome. He was just a humble guy, loving guy. And they've got that check, their personal check written out to them, Sweetness for $34, which is again his number, hanging in our friend's house down the street here. So, but just an amazing guy, and what a amazing guy to hang out with. So it was awesome.
What a unique gift. Oh, that's so cool. What a great story.
Yeah.
So
it was Cattle Company. The name of the club was Cattle Company at the time.
Okay.
Cattle Company in Chicago.
Is it still around, or is it gone?
It's gone.
Oh, it's too bad.
And then Walter opened up the 34 Lounge in Schaumburg as well. We used to go there and hang out all the time. But yeah, again, just great fond memories of Walter Payton.
Awesome. The other was Gale Sayers, just because I love his story too as well. And but yeah, a lot of players, storied players in that, and meant a lot to the city of Chicago. So the second part of this question, Glenn, is, so as a native Chicagoan, you answered it for personally your opinion of it. But if we took 1,000 Chicagoans, and I have an interesting answer. Again, this is an outsider talking, but I'll let you speak first. If we took 1,000 Chicagoans, would they agree with you that the United Center's got to go, or do you think their answer would be different collectively?
You know, the Chicagoans are very divisive, right? In terms of whether it's the Bears, the Bulls, the Cubbies, the Sox. Everyone's got their own viewpoint. If you're
say nothing of the Blackhawks fans, right?
And same with the Blackhawks, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a North Sider, you're going to the Cubbies. If you're a South Sider, you're going to the Sox. You know, the Bulls are always going to be the Bulls, and they won how many championships? 5, 6, whatever. 6. Thank you. But the Bears, the '85 Bears, nothing was like it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you know, that's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot, right? So if I had to guess, we're a football town, right? So the Bears and the Payton '85 Bears have to take the cake. That's my opinion.
Right.
That's my opinion.
I think that one stays. I think Soldier Field stays. Like, I think if you polled 1,000, you could poll 1 million Chicagoans. I think Soldier Field's like the number. Like they're like, oh yeah, Soldier Field top of the list. Like, I think it's easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that the baseball is where you get that divisive nature, right? You've got the South Siders and the North Siders, which is where I thought Wrigley Field gets kicked, because I think, again, it's funny to say this, but you know, it's 30 years ago, which God makes me feel old too. But 30 years ago is when they went on that run of six championships in 8 years. Michael Jordan, but I think is that as recent as that was, that's still like is the heartbeat of a lot of Chicago fans. Again, this is an outsider talking. So I would honestly say, like, I think more people would put Wrigley Field. They would kick Wrigley Field because, I mean, if you pick anyone from the South Side, I mean, they're automatically probably kicking that one. But I think overall too, if they think about it, like, well, Soldier Field's number one. Yeah, I think I'd go with the Bull. Yeah, I guess Wrigley Field's got to go, which is just crazy to think about because of how storied that stadium is.
Oh, it's amazing, right?
But
no, it's so true. And when I saw Jordan and the rest of the Bulls play in that playoff game, I was sitting on the floor when I was in corporate. So I was blessed to sit on the floor of the Bulls playing when they won that championship, and there was nothing like it. So again, this can go anyway. It can go anyway. But for me, it's just Bears through and through.
Absolutely. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for making the final One Must Go so memorable. I really, really appreciate your participation in that. As always, the One Must Go segment has been sponsored by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabey and Byron lines. Smoke one today and start living united. We'll be back. Our next show will be debuting the newest segment that United Cigars and ELOSOFUMARTAKES will be partnering with, and you guys are going to love it. For everyone who knows me, it's right up my alley. I'm stoked about it. It's going to be awesome. And next time we have you on, Glenn, we're going to have some fun with it too. So it'll be good. It'll be good times.
I love it. Bear, thanks for having me. It's always an honor and a privilege to be on your show. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend.
Appreciate
doing an awesome job. God bless your family.
Absolutely. Well, we got a couple more questions to go here, a couple more segments. But we honored your great friend in Rolando, but we want to honor another great, because Rolando was family, another great family member of yours tonight. So this has been a segment that I've been really, really enjoying, as it were, over the last year and a half. I started this about a year and a half ago, and the tradition has become, as my audience knows, we asked the guest to spotlight or bring awareness to a charity of their choice or nonprofit. And you chose the American Diabetes Foundation to honor your late father. And so wanted to give you a moment to talk about what this foundation has meant to you personally. And I'll be posting some links here in the show notes here in just a second.
No, I appreciate that, Bear. So the story behind that is my father, who had juvenile diabetes at the age of 12, sadly passed away when he was 45 years old, and I was only 15. So that there's a near and dear love in my heart for that foundation. He passed away way too young, and he was a great man, so funny, and just taught us at a very young age of integrity, honesty, and so it's blessed to honor that foundation and honor my dad, Vern Case. So thank you. I appreciate you guys doing that. It's amazing.
So, I mean, the really good thing, the thing about the American Diabetes Association that they do is, and what I really like about these great charities that we featured and spotlighted is that they do, it's more than just helping out families and individuals who like struggle with, whatever plight is upon them, but they do so much in by the way of education, and I think that's one of the biggest struggles, because like you said, your father had childhood diabetes. He lived with it his entire life, and the groundbreaking work that they've done in it, in no small measure by, I'm sure, the work that a lot of this foundation has done. allows people to live with this disease a lot better than they could than in your father's time. And so the work that they do isn't just, the help that they provide, but it's also, it's as cheesy as this sounds, it's the education, but it's also the hope that good organizations deliver as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he ultimately passed away with complications of diabetes, kidney failure, blindness, um, failed kidney replacement, dialysis for years and years. So it's, again, to see him go through what he went through as a young man, it's hard. And so it's a great organization, and there's been huge advancements over the years, obviously, but it's what an amazing organization, and whatever advancements they make is truly a blessing to see. And we've got to cure that disease.
There are so many, there's so many diseases out there, and there's so many things that are deserving of a cure. And we've featured a lot of charities on this program, and we've certainly talked about other diseases other than diabetes. This is the first time we've ever talked about this. So it as I was kind of researching it kind of brought to light some pretty astonishing figures. We talk about unless you've been living under a rock, there's been this worldwide, this nationwide epidemic of obesity for, gosh, the last 20 years. It's been a topic. But 34 million, it's estimated 34 million Americans, just Americans, suffer from diabetes. 34 million, and 88 million are considered pre-diabetic.
It's crazy.
It's really crazy. It's an astonishing number.
It's absolutely crazy. And it's not just diabetes, but it's the fallout of that, which I had mentioned. Right. It's kidney failure, it's blindness, it's ulcers, it's an awful disease. And so I would plead to your audience to make a contribution. Losing your father when he's only 45 years old, and I was 15, is devastating. Yes. So it's a great organization. Please contribute what you can. And Bear, thank you for doing what you're doing in that regard. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome, Glenn. And as become tradition here on the show every week, my wife and I, when I launched this segment, my wife and I had talked about it, and we decided that each week we were going to pledge a small donation to each charity that gets brought up. My wife reserved the right to veto one. It's never come up. So, and the American Diabetes Association is certainly not that one veto that she gets. So later tonight, we'll be honoring your father, Vern Case, with a small donation from the Duplessis family. So thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you, Bear. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
It's my honor, Glenn. Again, by doing this each week, we learned so much about not just these associations and these charities and everything, but the people that bring them up and everything. And it's clear, you're just talking a few moments about it, about the influence and impact that your father had upon you. I apologize. I'm not trying to get too personal here, but I know one of the things that I've always felt connected to you by is you and I are both very religious. And
yes, sir.
Was it your father that kind of instilled that religion in you, or did that come later in life as well?
He did, but it also came later in life for me. Born again Christian. So I'm very strong in my faith, and I believe what I have is only through God's grace. So there's a peace in having that relationship with Christ for me. And I believe where I'm at is only because of him. And the family and the friends I have around me is through him only. So again, another touching subject. But God's gotten me through a lot of difficult times. He's also helped me excel through his love and grace. So I'll leave it at that.
I think it's clear, because a lot of things that I've kind of noticed about and heard you speak about, Glenn, is just how it seems it's kind of weird, because you use the word, everyone, the word blessed gets used quite a bit by people, and it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
But in my conversations with you, it resonates with me, because it feels different when you say it, and chalk it up to sincerity and genuine. And I don't mean any offense to anyone else who's ever used that word with me. I'm not saying they're not genuine or sincere about it, but it's clearly a sincere thought by you. You don't use that word lightly, and it's something that I've noticed about you, and you do truly. I can see your actions, not just professionally and everything, but also your family, the way you talk about your children. And I was noticing as I was funnily enough, I was scrolling for pictures to use for my ad that I do each week. So I was looking for pictures to use of you and everything. And I saw this really great memory of you and your son, Christopher, who's the namesake of Kristoff Cigars.
Of course. Yeah.
And two memories stood out to me. Was I guess he was just taking a break from school. Maybe it was midterms or something. But I saw you guys just hanging out at a lounge or a bar or something, just having a smoke together, father and son. And, you started Kristoff Cigars well before he was legally able to smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
What's it like to sit down with your son and share this with him, his namesake?
So it's awesome, right? So in terms of that personal relationship with him, this is, I say this all the time, this is the ultimate equalizer. So when he was 12, 13 years old, my wife and I would be sitting on the back patio having a cigar and sharing a glass of wine. He'd come out and say, "What are you smoking?" I'm like, "Well, I'm smoking the Kristoff, whatever, Maduro." He goes, "Can I try it?" So anyway, I'd say, "Right, here you go, try the cigar." He's like, "Oh, that's nasty. How you can smoke that? That's terrible." Now, fast forward 2 years later, have a cigar. He's like, "Can I try it?" "Yeah, smoke it." He's like, "Go ahead, pick up notes of toasted almonds, cedar, a little spice, kind of a cinnamon flavor on the back end." I'm like, "Who are you? And what'd you do to my son?" Right? So it was bizarre. And then fast forward, and getting back to your point, Bear, it got to the point where my wife and I are on the back patio, having a cigar, sharing a glass of wine. He'd come out, he'd say, "Can we have a cigar?" I'm like, "Of course." And he look at mom and says, "All right, you have to go inside." And she laughs. I'm like, and I laugh. I'm like, "What does that mean?" He goes, "No, really. Can you go inside? We need time to talk." So for Chris and I, it became this connection of us. When he said, "Can we have a cigar? We need time to talk." That was our time to talk about life and girls and challenges and whatever it was. So that holds near and dear to my heart when I think about him and this industry, where we sat together and had personal conversations about life over a cigar. And so I will never, ever forget that. So that's truly, for me, a blessing. Again, gets back to God, right? So it's everything gets back together, and bringing him to faith, which is a challenge, right? But for me, and my wife, Terry, it's day-to-day living. We live through Christ.
Beautiful story. I love it. I I that was especially touching photo for me because I remember our last conversation, and you certainly didn't say anything to the contrary, like that he didn't enjoy cigars, but you told me at the time that he just had no interest in joining this industry professionally, right? We kind of joked like he's going to take over the world one of these days, like
Right.
he's just meant for different things and everything. And when I saw that, it touched me. It really did. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And I guess congratulations are in order too, because I think it was earlier this year or late this year, he competed in the Golden Tee Championships in Vegas. Is that right?
Oh my gosh, you know that? Yes.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, okay,
Oh my gosh.
I'm impressed.
So besides his amazing career at Indeed, he's an avid Golden Tee player, right? So when he was going through his graduate program at FIT, he bought an actual Golden Tee machine in his house, and he's a businessman. So he's like, all right, I'm going to buy this machine. I'm going to charge people to play, and I can practice and compete against everyone all over the world. So this past year, he actually competed in the World Championship.
World Championship. I shorted him. I'm sorry.
In Golden Tee in Vegas, and it was a huge production. So we flew out there, we watched him play, and he ended up placing, I think, 54th in the world.
Oh wow!
I mean, in the world, it's amazing to watch them play. It's like it's a big deal. So we're very proud and happy for him. So it was an awesome experience.
What a just a fun little story. That's interesting. But like you said, business minded. He bought his own machine rather than pumping quarters into somebody else's machine. There you go. That's chip off the old block there, right? The old finance. Oh man. Well, Glenn, we just have a couple more questions here before we conclude our night. Again, thank you so much for a wonderful evening so far. And but it's almost a perfect segue because you were talking about these beautiful moments that you shared with just you and your son. And by and large, we talk about this every week, how cigars really are a community thing. It's very community oriented. It's about hanging out in your local lounge. It's about the father-son moments, or the father and daughter moments, or mother and daughter moments, or whatever. But they're very community oriented. But it got me thinking, and this next segment, of course, was kind of brought to light by our newest partner here on ELOSOFUMARTAKES, which is Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place, right? It's a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. So moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. Light one up and choose your refuge. So Glenn, when you've had the opportunity to work with, and as you say, you've been blessed with a lot of these community moments and these people moments. And I'm sure you've had several, but if you could, do you recall a time where it was just you and the cigar? And what was that cigar, if you can recall? But what was that moment about?
There's been many. When I do events, I try to share the word of God, right? In a very subtle way, because, people get turned off. Some people do. But I was doing an event in New York, and a gentleman was suffering from cancer, and started talking about Christ. So I opened up that conversation. So I asked if I could pray with him. And this is in the middle of an event, right? So this is out of the ordinary. It's not, but that chance to pray with him over a cigar during a cigar event is just a way of, for me, sharing Christ's grace, his word. And I'm not sure that answers the question, but that's one thing that stands out with me in terms of the industry and the relationship with God. And it was just a very touching moment where I just held him and said, let's pray together. So there's been a few other moments like that, but for me, it was a very touching moment with this gentleman.
Yeah, it certainly took a turn for my original intent of the question, but I think that last line of the ad, which is about choosing your refuge. I mean, what greater example of refuge was that for this gentleman yourself? I'm sure that meant the world to him. And to find, I've been to plenty of cigar events. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on and everything like that. For you and him to share that moment of peace, because of cigars.
Right.
I mean, let's call it what it is.
And there's also times where I'm just sitting out my back screen and porch and talking to God and having a cigar. It's just me and him.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to talk to him each and every day. So it's an ongoing thing. I've got my daily devotional that I do, and whether it's over a cigar or not, but for me, that's really important.
I think that's the power of cigars in a lot of ways too. Like we talked about the community and everything, but and the reason the genesis of this particular segment was just about that, about how is this these cigars can provide such great opportunity for reflection, and it can be for solemn reasons, it can be for celebratory reasons. It's so versatile. I remember moving out to this new home of ours, and we'd gone through the stress of moving, which I'm never doing again. My 6-year-old son, even though has heard me say it enough times already, he's going to bury me out in the backyard because I'm not moving ever again. And he thinks it's funny, and I'm like, well, I'm serious, but that's fine. But I remember sitting it was the first cigar that I had at this new house, and I knew I was going to make this big production and everything, but I was just so exhausted from the move, and I just grabbed a cigar. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, Glenn, I don't even remember what it was. This is just a few months ago, and I have a stellar memory, and I still don't remember what it was. But what I do remember was just that momentary lapse of everything, except for sitting on the stoop patio, my family asleep inside in our new home that will be our home for forever now, and just having that moment of reflection and enjoying a cigar like I normally do. And it was so peaceful. It was perfect. Yeah. I can only remember what the cigar was.
It doesn't matter. You had that.
It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. Right. That's all about that time, that experience that you had. And I feel the same way. For me, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right on, brother.
So a couple last questions here before, and then I promise, Glenn, we'll bid you adieu, and thank you again so much for staying up late with us and everything. But
pleasure.
So a couple of well-marked issues have kind of come up this year. It's always something in this industry. We're constantly in a battle. People think that it's been since the FDA's deeming regulations. Like, the battle started well before that. I mean, it goes well before even S-chip, which, this industry has always had enemies. But two of the issues that have come up as of recently was this idea of responsible marketing. And I mean, I'll just go on the record, Glenn. I don't think Kristoff is, despite probably the most fun that you've had, which with your pissed off Kristoff brand, in my opinion, Kristoff has never fallen in that camp of irresponsible marketing. So I'll go ahead and put that out there. Nor has Kristoff ever marketed to children. I think it's very clearly an adult product. It's the way that you market, the way that everything, right? But what's your take on the idea of responsibility? Do you think it is the manufacturer's responsibility Do you think it's the industry's responsibility as a whole? Do you think it's everybody's responsibility to take on this load? Or do you think it should be up to, do you think to each their own? Just curious on your thoughts.
Right. So, and this is a complex question with multiple answers. The short answer is everyone's responsibility, right? So when you think about premium handmade cigars, like we're smoking tonight, no one is targeting kids, right? The average cigar smoker is 34, 35 years old. They're not buying a $9 to $14 cigar to hollow it out and put marijuana and smoke it and get high. This is not what we're about. But when it comes to self-regulation, brick and mortars have to make sure that they're not selling to underage smokers. And I don't think that's an issue, but it's got to be self-regulated. I think when we get into flavored cigars, we have to differentiate ourselves from Philly blunts, things like that. And I've been to the Hill a few times. And there's a lot of manufacturers that have done a lot more than I have. And that's Rocky and George Padron, and the list goes on and on. I'm going to forget names. But educating the people in DC how we are different than a cigarette, a Philly blunt, Swisher flavored, whatever it is. We are just a totally different category.
Vape, cans of dip. I mean, yeah. I mean, we're different.
We are so different, and I think people are waking up to that. But it's continuing that fight and getting back to responsibility. I mentioned brick and mortar, self-regulating, checking, but it's also the end consumer and it's the manufacturer as well. So manufacturers contribute your time, your talents, and your treasures, as God says, to fight for this industry. And a lot of people have gotten complacent, including end consumers, and it's probably just a lack of knowledge, right? So when there are, you've got CRA, sign up for a membership. You get very limited production cigars when you sign up as a part of the bonus for that. But all of that goes to fight for legislative and legal efforts to fight for this industry, this premium artisan hand-rolled product, which is not targeting kids at all. And I think DC is waking up to that, but we can't be complacent. Everyone's got to do their part, whether it's, again, signing up for CRA, manufacturers spending their time, treasures, and talents going to the DC or financial contributions to PCA and CRA to fight for this. And we've been doing that for years and years and years and years. So guys, don't get complacent. Sign up, fight for your right to smoke a premium cigar, because we're going to be on the radar forever and ever.
Yeah. I really hope from your lips to God's ear there, Glenn, I really hope they are waking up to the fact, because even with this, you kind of morphed into the next point, which was the flavored cigar proposal ban that just came up recently too. And how even in those documents, even in that proposal by the FDA, and after all this time and all this money and all this effort and all this education, it was evident and clear in their proposal that they still don't understand what a premium cigar is. And that's just shocking to me. It's just unbelievable that, and listen, I don't respect it, but I understand the anti-tobacco lobby, right? They want to get rid of tobacco. Like it's that simple for them. Yeah, it's that simple for them, and that's going to be our enemy for all time, like you said. And so to them, there is no differentiation. So I get that. But the FDA, who's supposed to be this, for all intents and purposes, this nonpartisan, unbiased entity of understanding and they have zero clue. And it also blows my mind too, as an American, how it's still, I still don't understand this, how as an American, how a non-legislative body with zero oversight can pass laws in this country. That blows my mind too.
It's insane. So when you look at premium handmade cigars, we're less than 0.1% of all tobacco products produced in the U.S., sold in the U.S. Sorry. So we're nothing, but they're trying to group us all together, right?
Right.
Cigarettes, machine-made cigars, and we're trying to say, look, we are different. We're not targeting kids, to your point. You know, it's all about an education process within the industry and the folks on the Hill. And we're making strides, but we have to do more. We absolutely have to do more.
Well, this point came up last week when we had Tony Bellato on, and Tony brought this up. I'm not going to take any credit for it. And that discussion continued on the Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition with my partner, Will Cooper. And we were talking about, like, okay, and it's a fair it really is a fair comparison. Like you never want to point, you never want to point fingers and like draw somebody else into your own fight. But I think this point is valid. And Tony brought up the fact that, okay, so, you know, the FDA anti-tobacco, we'll leave them on a shelf. They've got their own agenda, obviously. But the FDA claims that their main purpose is the national health and safety of our children specifically, but the national health and safety for all, right? And they think that flavored cigars particularly target children. And as Tony brought up, and with all respect to your favorite spirit, Glenn, we can walk into any liquor store in this country and there's, you know, bubblegum flavored vodka or you know, Mountain Dew flavored vodka or anything like that. And no one bats an eye. Nobody, no one says anything.
No, you're absolutely right. And so there was, and I missed it because I was actually traveling this week, but CRA and PCA did a joint update on flavored cigars. So I've got to get caught up on that. But the point is, premium cigars, premium handmade cigars, again, artisan product, non-addictive, all natural product, has nothing to do with targeting kids, nothing at all. But the government wants to group every tobacco-based product together, whether it's cigarette, machine-made cigars, Philly blunts, Swisher flavored, whatever it is, they want to group it all together.
Right.
And stats and studies have shown we are not targeting kids with this product.
It's a rounding error. It's a rounding error.
Exactly. And we're nothing relative to tobacco products sold in the U.S. relative to all tobacco-based products. We're nothing.
Right. So here's another stat that I brought up. Okay, so we're talking about statistics with diabetes, that shocking number, right? Okay, so I grabbed two numbers, one which is clearly biased and the other which is, for all intents and purposes, a pretty neutral statistic. So let me throw these two numbers at you, Glenn. The Truth Initiative, which is a biased organization, right, estimates that 1.7 underage individuals use tobacco on more than a weekly basis. That's tobacco. So that's your cigarettes, that's your all the stuff that we talked about. So take in part the fact that we as a premium cigar industry are 1/10 of that percent. So again, a small number.
Right.
Again, no one in this industry is marketing to children. That's not our goal. That's not what we're doing. So 1.7 million underage users of tobacco. The CDC, okay, and I know there's thoughts about the CDC, but for all intents and purposes, an unbiased organization in terms of gathering data, you would assume, estimates that over 7 million underage, because now it's the same age, under 21, because now it's the same age, over 7 million underage people in this country consume alcohol on a regular basis. So my argument was, what's the difference? If you're talking about health, and if that's your goal, is we're talking about health and safety of our nation's youth, you're telling me that a problem that's 7 times larger of a problem doesn't warrant any discussion whatsoever, but yet the FDA is hell-bent on, oh, premium cigars, flavored cigars that's an issue. That's an issue for our children.
Yeah, it's a total misrepresentation of where the issues are, right?
Yes.
That's your point. I mean, and so the focus is in the wrong place. Focus on premium cigars is not the issue. It's what you mentioned in terms of alcohol consumption and underage smoking, and we can go on and on about this, but you're 100% right. It's just a misdirected focus on premium cigars when their focus should be on something totally different. And your point is underage alcohol consumption. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But,
and I'm not trying to deflect. I'm using I
agree.
I'm using data.
Totally agree.
You know, and I'm not the brightest bulb in the shed, but if you're telling me if something is 7 times worse, and my concern is health and safety of children, which I agree is a very important issue, my focus would be on the 7 times bigger problem.
100%. You're absolutely right.
So I mean, but again, like I said, I'm not the brightest bulb in the shed, so maybe. I'm pretty sure I got a point.
Hey, Bear, I always say I'm as sharp as a marble. So listen, it gets down to basics. So again, it's about education. It's about end consumers, manufacturers, retailers doing what they can to support the fight to defend premium handmade cigars. And that's the bottom line.
1000%. Glenn, thank you so much for this evening. I've got one last question for you. I promise it's the last question of the night.
No, it's all good, my friend.
Because it is our curveball segment, which is always sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Fastballs or curveballs. It doesn't matter since the company's inception. Steve Saka has been knocking them out of the park. That's 7, count it, 7 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So, Glenn, we've had this. He's, you know, he tries hard not to be likable, but he's lovable. I tell him that all the time.
I've known Steve a long time, and you just put it perfectly how you described that. So, yeah. Hi, Steve.
So, Glenn, we've had the opportunity to have 2 amazing conversations with you now, and you've certainly lived a storied and to your words, a blessed life, and you've had 2 amazing careers, one in finance and banking, and the other in premium cigars. And there was a time in between there that you were considering being a hot dog mogul. So we know that too from last time. So so that aside, this is a curveball question. So I'm taking banking and finance, premium cigar manufacturing, and hot dog vendoring off the table. What's a career that you, in a dream world, fantasy world, that Glen Case would love to be? And it can be anything. You could be a celebrity chef. You could be a baseball manager, a football running back. I'm just throwing stuff out now, like whatever. What is in Glen Case's fantasy world? What's that 3rd career, or in this case, 4th career, look like?
Barry, you're killing me, Smalls. So the answer is, and it's an easy answer, I'll tell you, and you might be shocked to hear this, but it's a landscape design. So after sometime during my corporate career, I'm like, you know what? I love landscaping. Went and got a certificate in landscape design. So I just love the outdoors. I love design. I did that on the side for a while, designing landscapes for lots of different people, including my own homes. So that's the short answer. I love landscaping and design. So yeah.
It does surprise me. Here's a small connection to this. Our first conversation, you had spent that morning or that day rather, because I had asked you how your day had gone, and you're like, yeah, and you had just moved into your new home, and you had talked about how you had spent the day doing landscape. You were clearing trees that day.
Yes.
And
oh my God.
So
remember this. You're killing me. This is great.
so it does surprise me, but yeah, I said there's a small connection, so I get it. That's really cool. Like, so you said you've done this for friends or other people and everything like that, kind of on the side and stuff. What what you just, I guess your just love of outdoors is kind of what's drawn you to this area?
Yeah. So I just love landscaping. So different plants and perennials and designing landscaping, hardscape and softscape, which is plant and patios and that sort of thing. So I did a lot of even our current house now, which we moved into just over 2 years ago, I did a lot of the design for that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a passion, yeah.
This is a merging of our two worlds here, Glenn, because my day job, as much as I would love to do this, it certainly doesn't pay the mortgage, but full time. But my day job is I sell software that is specifically designed for that industry, the green industry, your landscapers, your lawn care, your fertilization, weed control, irrigation stuff. So the merging of our two worlds here. That's really cool.
I love that. That's very cool.
That's awesome, Nick.
Friend.
Next time we get together, you'll have to show me some pictures of some of your designs. I'd love to see it. That'd be really cool.
I would be happy to do that. That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for this opportunity to sit down with you again. It's been again, not using this word lightly, but it has been a blessed evening for me. I've really enjoyed this. I enjoyed our conversation the first time, and I dare to say that this one was even better than before. And I really enjoyed our time together tonight. Thank you so much.
Bear, thank you. I appreciate you, brother, and God bless you. And I appreciate you and having me on the show. It's truly an honor and a blessing. And best of luck to you and your business and your family.
Thank you, sir. And the returning those sentiments as well. God bless you and your family, and God bless our audience for always staying up late with us every week and enjoying our conversations as much as I do. And thanks to everyone for all the likes, shares, and comments. You can check us out on Facebook, where you are viewing this right now. We've got some incredible shows coming up. In fact, next week we're celebrating. This will be the 4th installment of our love of cinema here on ELOSOFUMARTAKES. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. So we'll be talking with Mr. Fred Rui of Illusione Cigars and Sam Spencer, formerly of McAuliffe Cigars. Once again, Fred and Sam will make a return. We'll be talking about the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. So excited to be commemorating that amazing piece of art in that. So we'll tune in for next week. If you are watching our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening wherever you listen to podcasts later on, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well. Download, and mark a review. If you are our subscriber, hit the unsubscribe button. Just don't forget to hit resubscribe, because that helps my numbers so that I can keep getting great guests like Mr. Glen Case on. So thank you so much for everyone out there. This was our 210th take. Our 210th take live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studios of Azle, Texas. I'm Bear Duplessis. He's Glen Case. And guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.
God bless. Congratulations, Bear.
Thank you.